I had to start the show because whoops. Gene on Substack said arg. So I don't know. Just felt like that was a good reason to just go into the show. Somebody said arg. That was a comment. We're live on Substack, Odyssey, and on YouTube. What's up, y'all? We're actually going to cover some climate stuff today. I'm going to start the show with some climate stuff. Whoa. Just trying to push it out there, push back on so much of the non-info. Two of the things that the alternative journalists get wrong, most of the libertarian ish people who might call themselves libertarian or even anarchist. I don't know, it's hard to know because so hold on one second. I guess not. There is people can be all across the board, right? But I think that there is a in the alternative journalist world, there's kind of a bias towards strangely being against, or also in the conspiracy world. I mean, are they the same thing? There's strangely a bias against being leftist or communist or socialist, and also talking or thinking about climate change, or acknowledging that climate change is a real thing. Those are two big man, this is the weirdest thing. Two of the big talking points that I am disturbed by. What's up? Desert Mantis is on Odyssey. I have a lot of people watching on Substack. That's cool. Has everybody switched over to Substack to watch on Substack? Is that what's happening? I only see 2 people watching on YouTube, and somehow I don't really believe that. I never believe the YouTube numbers. A couple people watching on Odyssey. But a part of me believes that these 2 particular narratives are not just related, but intentional for a specific reason. And it's to distract people from the reality of what's going on. They want to, well, climate change in particular, because they don't want people to understand what's happening to us and what's going to happen to us. And if people got any kind of momentum behind that, if people got any kind of cohesion behind like how bad things are and what it is we have to do to stop the destruction, well, they fear the obvious backlash from that. So they want to keep people confused and dumbed down and misunderstanding the problem for as long as possible. And so on that particular subject, I believe that alternative media is either whiffing horrendously or in league. There, it's constructed, anyways. But they have done a very good job of destroying people's understanding and mind around this. And it's unfortunate, and I'm so incensed by it, but that I don't really participate in a lot of the channels I used to, because I'm just like, it's infuriating. Kameshwari says climate change is coming so fast that the corporate powers are extracting as fast as possible. Exactly. They don't want people to understand how bad things are, because they want to continue this extraction system right up into the end. They want to, and that's what we're seeing. Just across the board, we're just seeing like major, massive corruption. People, I heard another gentleman speaking about the fact that it seems like in the corporate world and in the government, and just generally anywhere and everywhere, people are just stealing everything that they could possibly take on the way out the door. And that's, that we are just openly like living in an openly corrupt, society at the moment. And all the corporations are just, stealing and wage thefting, as much as they can, as fast as they can. And also in order to keep afloat, there's also a lot of like upside down exposure to economic risks going on too. But yeah, they don't want you to know how bad climate change is, but it's gonna, if it hasn't made itself clear to you yet, it will make itself clear to people in the future in a way that will be so undeniable that people will be like, oh damn, oh damn, oh gosh. Well, let's get into it. How y'all doing? How's everybody feeling? Good to see you. YouTube is telling me I have 4 viewers. I don't believe it. But Substack is telling me I have 8 viewers. I don't believe that. It's part of the move to, but maybe I do have 8 or 9 viewers on Sub. Maybe that's true. The forest needs to be logged as fast as possible, right? Yeah, Gene, I agree. And a part of me feels like it's just not accidental. It's not a oopsie. It's actually on purpose. Yeah. And a lot of people are taken in by it, by that narrative. Somewhere, I'm going to get this article up. Trump wants to cut down untouched forests. It won't be easy, or will it? So one of the things that they're doing right now is, and it's not just about Trump. Yes, Trump bad guy, Trump bad. Trump bad guy, Trump. The problem is that Trump is it's the system that wants to do this. It's capital that wants to do this. It's corporations that want to do this. Trump is just the guy doing their bidding. If you don't understand that yet. But before Trump was doing their bidding, Biden was doing their bidding. Before Biden was doing their bidding, Trump was doing their bidding. Before Trump was doing their bidding, Obama was doing their bidding. Before Obama, do you get it? Before Obama was doing their bidding, Bush was doing their bidding. Do you understand? It is not about Trump. It is about the corporate class is now, we are now in a space where the corporate class is taking such deep hold of the entire system. There's no, there's no even pretense of doing things above the board. It's just naked, corruption and an onslaught of what's left of nature in order to keep the system alive. The Trump administration wants to scrap a rule that protects tens of millions of acres of national forests from road building and large-scale logging, but its zeal to log will face a reality check from government downsizing, possibly litigation, and even a soft timber market. Again, there's blowback always involved in these schemes. The U.S. Forest Service, which manages roadless areas, is grappling with budget cuts and staffing shortages. At the same time, environmental groups are already gearing up for legal battles. So what's being challenged is the so-called roadless rule. Why? Because when you put a road into a forest, what follows the road is more destruction. Stores, everything that everything that goes along with the infrastructure to keep cars on the roads and do whatever the roads are there to do, which is allow access. sorry, lovely, dear-hearted environmentalists that are like, what, we need to be able to get in there. Well, we want to go hiking. When you put the road in, what follows is just destruction, death and destruction. That's just sorry. There's nothing else. So the idea of the roadless rule is to keep these areas, intact, these forests intact, not carved up and not, being subjected to the things that the roads bring, which is, pollution, traffic, people, mini marts, gas stations, visitor centers, blah, blah, blah. Feast your eyes on the millions and millions of acres of untouched forest that Trump plans to log by ending the roadless rules that protect these forests. It's ecocide and greatest attack on U.S. forests since opening of Wild West. Apparently, Idaho and Colorado have state roadless rules that will not be affected if the roadless rule is rescinded. That's good. Excuse me. Sorry. My bad. Among the places the rule has preserved are parts of the world's largest coastal temperate rainforest in Alaska's Tongass National Forest, vast mountain ranges in central Idaho, the peaks and plateaus above Utah's contested Bears Ears National Monument, and Appalachian Forest in Virginia. Donald Trump's Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins slammed the roadless rule this summer as absurd and said it violates the Forest Service's mandate to produce timber. Really? We must produce timber. We need that wood. Would you believe? The rollback of the roadless rule is expected to affect about 44 million acres, roughly equivalent to the size of Missouri, because Rollins said in June that separate rules protecting about 13.5 million acres of roadless area in Idaho and Colorado will remain in place. Roadless areas are the best of what's left of our national forest, said Lynn Cameron, a Shenandoah Valley Appalachian Trail maintenance volunteer who's lobbying Congress to leave untouched George Washington National Forest woodlands that protect watersheds serving the Virginia cities of Staunton and Harrisonburg. Municipal water that comes from roadless areas is surface water. That's the cleanest water there is. Yeah. Save beer's ears. Yeah. That might have been a good one. What's up? Malcolm says, it is on purpose. We are not prepared, so the food shock is mercifully short while they hide in bunkers. Talking about the mass extinction event between 2035 and 2040, maybe. Let's jump over to well, one more thing on this. Rescinding, so there's another rule they're trying to, just gut all these regulations that help keep some semblance of nature from being executed. Rescinding the endangerment finding rule. So greenhouse gas endangerment finding. Rescinding the endangerment finding rule is the greatest attack on climate science and climate action in U.S. history. It means that carbon emissions and the warming of Earth, fueling extreme climate, will no longer be seen as a threat by the U.S. government, so they will be no longer regulated. And what do we read just the other day about methane coming from natural sources, or environmental sources, not necessarily from like pipelines and cars and whatnot. Current and projected concentrations of 6 key well-mixed GHGs in the atmosphere threaten the public health and welfare of current and future generations. These combined emissions of these well-mixed GHGs from the new motor vehicles and new motor vehicle engines contribute to the greenhouse gas pollution, which threatens public health and welfare. It was published in the Federal Register December 15th, 2009. But they want to rescind that. I don't know what is going on with YouTube. I don't know. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, I believe there's many people watching on YouTube, even though it says 0. I'm not really sure what's going on. Ancient giant trees that have stood undisturbed for thousands of years wiped out in Chile and Argentina as temperatures reach 37 C. There was actually some evidence that these fires were started by Israeli nationals. So I don't know. But certainly I don't think that yeah, I know you guys are here. I just I absolutely know y'all are watching on YouTube. I just don't. YouTube is being funny. YouTube is doing what YouTube does. The thing is that these stories get conflated you know, as in the wildfire that took out a bunch of homes in the Palisades and Eaton Canyon, like there was actually, a weather event going on. It wasn't, there's evidence that lots of things happened around it, mismanagement to malfeasance, but there was an actual weather event that was happening. There was actually conditions that were created by a different climate that encouraged, made possible, right, the other stuff that went on around it. So though I don't doubt that people are taking advantage of these things, it doesn't negate the fact that these things are actually happening, right? That the conditions are there for these fires to get out of control very, very easily, right? It just makes it more readily, it just makes it easier for people to do, to take advantage of these things, to make the things that are so much worse than they are, and to kind of hide, right? You can actually hide behind something that's already pre-existing, and people might be prone to look the other way. You move back to YouTube, watch wherever you like. I'm not really sure. Malcolm says, I moved over to Odyssey. Do not like this. Insists on 1080p, which I watch on phone internet and use. Okay, I see. Got it. I mean, watch where you need to watch. Do your best. Wildfires that left 23 people dead were made about 3 times more likely by global heating. Sure. There are more droughts happening. There's, where did I just see? I just saw an article. I saved it. No. No. Where is it? Hope I didn't delete it. Maybe I deleted it. Global water bankruptcy is here as human water systems can no longer be restored. A UN report said we were using water faster than it can be replenished annually in rivers and soils, with many major rivers failing to reach the sea. Yeah, that's happening. We're depleting water tables and aquifers. And as the world gets warmer, there's going to be more, evaporation is going to happen much more quickly. Unfortunately. Let's see. So we've only got 4 years if we're lucky, says Climate Watcher. UK's Joint Intelligence Committee, of which heads of MI5 and MI6 sit, released last month a partial version of its national security assessment on global biodiversity loss. It came with a stark warning. Some ecosystems will start to collapse by 2030 or sooner, posing an immediate threat to national security, prosperity, food systems, and public health. Where have we seen? This is an intelligence report. This is, basically a report, and there's been others like this, reports by the Pentagon, reports by oil companies, reports by the people who are interested the people who are busy keeping us in the dark and interested in propagandizing us against any knowledge about this are producing reports saying they know all about it. And they do it over and over and over again. What more evidence do you need that this is an actual thing? This is actually a thing that's happening. But what they're, you know, they understand it completely. They just don't want you to know about it until the last minute, until things are so bad and you have absolutely no way to, no way to fight against it, no way to, maybe it won't matter. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. But it's interesting that they picked the date 2030. It's interesting that all of these things are coalescing around the Agenda 2030 date, which you see more and more in your timelines, right? Oh, they want to do this by 2030. Basically, they want to have like digital money, social credit score system, basically the entire panopticon built out around us by 2030. Why that date? Oh, look at this. Food systems will start collapsing, ecosystems will start collapsing, things will get very, very dicey around 2030. They want to have all this stuff in place by 2030. Why are these things coming together? So precisely. I wonder. Environmental breakdown isn't a distant possibility, it's a threat to world stability. How many times have we seen these reports? Not by the paid for by the WEF paid for climate scientists. No, by actual intelligence communities. I mean, everybody puts out these reports. Everybody understand what's going on. It's not those climate scientists are paid to fudge the numbers. Not really. What about the oil companies who ran all these studies and came to the same conclusions? Are they paid to fudge the numbers? They're paying other people to tell you that climate change isn't real. They pay them all day long. I wonder why. When they know what the truth is. Last month, a partial version of the National Security Assessment on Global Biodiversity Loss was published. It came with a stark warning. Ecosystems will start to collapse by 2030 or sooner, posing an immediate threat to national security, prosperity, food systems, and public health. There won't be enough water for people to drink or food to eat. Livelihoods will be lost. Displacement and migration will accelerate, and geopolitical competition for resources will intensify. Greenland, Cuba, Greater America, Greater Israel. In short, environmental breakdown isn't a distant possibility or a theoretical scenario. It's a strategic threat that intelligence agencies now factor into their calculations. Why would they do this if it was fake? Why? Why would they make this up? This is just, I love these kinds of numbers. 55% of the world's GDP, $58 trillion. Think about that number, is reliant on nature. Nature's decline poses significant risks to the global economy. Darn. Come on, nature. Play ball. You're an economic terrorist. You are, with your declining biodiversity. We're going to have to put nature in a federal detention center. for threatening us with violence. We're in a race to hold on to the nature we have, to restore what we have lost, to limit our carbon emissions and suck as much carbon out of the atmosphere as we can. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Good luck. Well, it is, Malcolm. Nature is not, cooperating like it should. And, it's going to have to answer for that, I think. Well, all right. All right, we're going to move over to some other news. Well, this goes along with what I was saying about climate change and socialism and or slash communism. Like, it was very somehow adroit, I guess is the word I could use. I don't know how they did this. One weird mind trick with all the alternative journalists, but like there's also a common thread of like communism bad. Well, we have always been against socialism and or communism. I'm not talking about the totalitarianism of Russia and or China. That's different. That's not actually communism. I mean, maybe it has the word communism is in it. Maybe it has some features of communism, but that's just totalitarianism. It's different. But actual socialism or actual, socialistic impulses or programs or governments or things of that nature have always been the enemy of capital. And they have done a very, very good job of propagandizing and brainwashing any moron that will believe this shit about how bad communism is or socialism is. When that has been the only bulwark against the just oligarchs run amok. And so they have always propagandized or waged outright war against any country that actually tries to establish itself in a socialist or communist type thing. So they've always done this in Latin America, and now they're trying to take down Cuba, and Cuba is on the ropes. The United States would sooner turn Cuba into a concentration camp than allow the world to see that a socialist project can not only survive but thrive and provide for its people, which is what it has done. The propaganda is that like, oh, Cuba is a oppressive state. Venezuela, Maduro's a bad guy. So at least we got rid of the, just come on, man. Come on. That's called propaganda, and people just eat it up like it's a bowl of Captain Crunch or some shit. So good, sweet, delicious. But Cuba was actually, very successful in providing, healthcare for their people, education for their people. The entire country was literally like a climate change resistant model of, everybody farmed their agriculture, they farmed their own food, they farmed organically, they farmed, they provided for themselves. And their country didn't look like the United States. Why would you want to? Is that a measure of success? Or, well, that's the measure of well-being, is looking like the United States or some other Western country. No, they had a model which, it wasn't perfect. Probably no country is. But they were able to provide for their population. which we can't actually say that about ourselves. Do we give our people free healthcare? No, we do not. Do we grow all of our own food and provide for our people? Like in a more natural way, in a more like aligned with nature kind of way? No, we do not. But we are hell bent on destroying like any country that calls itself socialist or models itself socialist. All the socialist programs of the US have been like gutted over the last several decades, and they're trying to do that in Europe as well. But those institutions, those socialist leanings in Europe have been around a long time. They're very ingrained, and the people know that to lose those things is bad. That's why they get out in the street every time somebody says, how about if we cut your vacation time? How if we cut your... They're like, hell no, man. We pay a buttload in taxes. Like, we know what we get for our taxes, and we want to keep those things that we get for our taxes. But the US citizens aren't so bright, because all they do is go, hey, we're going to give you some tax cuts. Your taxes are bad. How about some tax cuts? And guess what? You pay the same amount in taxes all the time. Actually, taxes just went up for a lot of people in the last couple of years. And what do you get for it? Nothing. Nothing. You still get nothing. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. U.S. cutting off of oil to Cuba is truly one of the most depraved acts it is possible to imagine. Hospitals will close, food production will collapse, people will starve. It is urgent for U.S. citizens and every sane person to oppose this barbarism with all their might. Let's see what's up on Substack. What's up, people? Commercial Arcade says, build more buildings, flush more toilets, take more showers, cram the people into these vertical coffins. Meanwhile, the U.S. military helping Trump to build massive network of concentration camps. Navy contract reveals. What are they for? What's going on here? What do you think is really happening? Is this about illegal immigration or something else? Cuba developed its own COVID vaccines while under U.S. sanctions. GDP goes up whenever there's... Yeah. Desert Mantis says ecosystems are already collapsing. Yeah. Look at global fisheries. Yeah. Cuba's not perfect, but it has a very sustainable, their system was very sustainable for its people. Not, and again, the whole thing, which would probably lead us into a discussion about what is poverty and like what, from the Western viewpoint, any people that looks impoverished or just doesn't have all the flash and the trappings of Western society is somehow they're, something's wrong with them. They're like, no, not at all. I'll go one step further and say that poverty is the way out of climate collapse. If people would just accept a lot more poverty in their lives, we'd all be better off. I'm not saying like, I'm not saying like eating mud poverty. I'm talking about like the poverty of like I have like a couple pairs of pants and 2 t-shirts, but I have food to eat every day. Uh, you know, I don't have a car. I have a house. Maybe I got to work kind of hard to grow food every day, like, that kind of poverty. Darn. You got to ride a bike down to the corner store. Dang. Probably better for your soul anyways. Um they seem to be building these concentration camps at a breakneck speed. I wonder why. Malcolm says log cabin with a cellar full of preserved food and green space around you is rich. Exactly. Exactly. If you accepted a certain amount of poverty in your life, you might find yourself to be a happier, more resilient human being. Because look how much happiness people get from being forced to participate in the rat race of having to work all day long to not be able to afford your rent or your food. Yeah, that's joyful. We're gonna close up with some Epstein craziness. Thomas Massey has been a one man, uh, you know, one sane voice. There's others, but he's been leading the charge about trying to get some kind of accountability, I guess, for people in the Epstein files. Still hasn't happened yet. Massey exposes Les Wexner as Epstein's co-conspirator, opening door to criminal charges against Kash Patel. How about Pam Bondi? How about Lex Wessner? How about everybody in these files? How about Donald effing Trump? Unredacted Epstein files confirm the DOJ has withheld the names of co-conspirators. Is anybody going to go down? I know it doesn't really look likely, which is, even more infuriating. The enhanced political pressure from Massey and California Representative Ro Khanna following their success in passing the Epstein Files Transparency Act resulted in the Trump DOJ deciding to allow members of Congress to view unredacted files beginning on Monday morning. Members of Congress have been given limited access to view unredacted versions of the Epstein files on computers at DOJ offices, provided they give 24 hours notice. They will not be given access to physical documents themselves. The DOJ has limited access to members of Congress alone, including any members of their staff. Although members of Congress will be able to take notes on any files they view, the DOJ has prohibited them from bringing any electronic devices into their review sessions. Unredacted documents made accessible to members of Congress are also limited to the trove of over 3 million files that have been released to the public. I mean, why isn't Trump up on charges right now? Why is this dude still president? Why is this dude still like able to, why isn't he not being walked out of the Jesus Christ? I mean, Les Wexner was funding Epstein, right? There were others he named as well. Oh, by the way, hold on one second. Excuse me. Epstein. Thomas Massey humiliates and exposes FBI Director Kash Patel, who said Epstein trafficked to no one. The FBI has the names of at least 20 men to whom Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women and girls. One of whom is Trump. Why is he not being walked out of the White House?
CEO of Barclays Bank with the FBI.
Oh, I don't know if you guys can hear this. Hold on. Pardon me. Can you guys hear this?
You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
Well, no shit. Yeah, what are their names? I thought I saw something with all the names, but where are the names? Hold on. Where are the names? He doesn't say any of the names in here. Okay. Anyways, sorry about that. Jamie Dimon, yeah, right. Oh, by the way, right on time, creative. Hold on. FBI document alleging Howard Lutnick. So Howard Lutnick is actually all up in the files, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't want anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, I was a business associate, but did you all see that clip of him saying, like, me and my wife, we walked out of the house and we were like, we will never have anything to do with that man again." Like, what, dude? Shut up. The FBI document alleging Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald acting in money laundering scheme linking J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, and Russian hedge funds. Documented proof showing money laundering and Ponzi schemes by Lutnick via offshore shell companies, liquid funding, and real estate brokerage firms. Redacted name, and using a global Ponzi share scheme involving over 3,500 BGC employees who are forced to contribute 10% of their earnings into the scheme. Wow. It goes on to say how Lutnick is deeply rooted to the royal family, which makes sense because in the third screenshot documents I attached, you can see David Stern, longtime key aide to Prince Andrew, asking Epstein if he has seen the Cantor Fitzgerald proposal. This is the guy managing Tether's billions. Tether. In November 2024, Cantor Fitzgerald negotiated a 5% ownership interest in Tether. Lutnick's son now runs Cantor as he is Secretary of Commerce of the United States. Bo Hines leaves his government crypto role to become CEO of Tether's new USAT. Wow. Wow. All of these people are involved. Pam Bondi's response to Ted Lieu saying that she lied under oath is crazy. Here.
It's done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files.
I'm reclaiming my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Chairman, please stop the clock. Stop the clock.
The legislation. This is
time.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is on videotape. You said there's no evidence of crime. I'm showing you. Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell. So should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
I mean, all of that. Couple other weird things. Here's Jeffrey Epstein talking to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak to approach Palantir founder Peter Thiel. He misspells Palantir and Thiel, which is weird. At least it sounded like he misspelled it, but this is interesting.
I know Peter. I've never met Peter Thiel, and everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs.
Smoking, yeah. He looks under drugs.
However, he has a company called Palantir, Pallen Tier. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company, and look out.
Palantir, Palantier.
Yes.
How you write Thiel? Thiellly.
Thiel.
Lly.
No, Thiell.
Okay.
So he thought that Peter would put you on the board of Palantir. Peter Thiel is one of the best. I've never met him. He's going to come here next week. So I wanted to talk to him after I talked to you. Okay. He and Andreessen. It's called Andreessen Horowitz.
Yo.
Andreessen Horowitz, they pay Larry $1 million.
I'm going to stop right there, guys. For everyone who is on Substack, Mark Andreessen is one of the most, he's as dirty as they come. He's all up. He's with Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, all these people. He is, and they are the people that started, control, whatever, managed Substack. So just so you know, Substack seems cool, and Andreessen is one of the most notoriously shady MFers out there. He's up in the club, way up in the club. So I just, for the long term, for the long run, don't trust Substack. I mean, whatever. Do what you got to do. But Substack is not trustable on any level. And Andreessen, and anything he's involved with is not trustable on any level.
A year. Just to advise them.
Andreas and
Andreessen, Andreessen, and Horowitz.
And Howard.
Horo, Horowitz.
What they are? It's a lobbyist. What they are doing?
They are the biggest venture capital people in Silicon Valley.
Well, bigger than Sequoia or Kleiner
These are the new Kleiner Perkins. Everybody, these are the smart boys. So those two companies right away, in terms of, I said that we need now in the next 3 weeks if you're going to leave.
Okay. Last thing, Nancy Mace, Representative Nancy Mace. They're tracking every file that we open. When we open it, they are tracking everything. You can see the way they're tracking you if you know where to look, like I do. It's like a Microsoft product from 95. Okay.
I played around with the system. They're tracking every file that we open. And when we open it, they're tracking everything. And you can see the way that they're tracking you when you're logged in if you know where to look, like I do.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you find that?
I don't want to say because then I want them to hide it.
Right.
But I can see how they're tracking us.
Wow.
So they give each of us a login with their name attached to it, and every single file that we open, regardless of if we even read it, every single file that we open, that file is tagged with our name. So they get the search history and the files that we opened.
Wow.
Everything.
How easy is it to even navigate that? What's the physical space
It's like a Microsoft product. It looks like Microsoft from 95.
Like a computer lab.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hard to navigate. So like Microsoft from 95 was kind of clunky to navigate. This system is clunky.
Windows 95.
And Windows 95, and it's clunky. But by the second day I went today, I kind of got it all figured out and how to do what I need to do to find what I want to find.
Do you think there could be some court?
Okay. It's clunky. It's Windows 95. They're still tracking everything that you open and that you see. Wild. Guys, if you want to support the show, if you like the show, if you want to keep this show on the air, please consider supporting the show at one of the links in the description box of whatever channel you're watching on. All the regulars are there: Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi. You can support on Patreon or on Substack. You can also support, let me see, Gene. The bottom line indictment here for me should be the concept of extreme wealth. Yeah. Hope humanity gets over it, or I feel we're doomed. Yeah. Well, so, and somebody else pointed out, like, every billionaire is in these files. So golly, it seems to be a direct link to being super uber wealthy and being part of the club. Unfortunately. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here. Thanks for watching. There was a little bit of news on the El Paso airspace closure that we talked about, or that I was talking about. Was I talking to you all about it? I don't remember. Gosh, my brain. El Paso airspace was closed. Strangely, it was a big deal, and they were saying it was because they were testing some anti-drone tech, and the FAA was battling the Pentagon over the safety of this anti-drone tech. So they just went ahead and closed the airspace, but it seemed like that for a moment there, nobody knew what was going on. And that's what made people even more worried, is that there was a lot of confusion around what was happening. But more, I'm sure, will be revealed. I don't know. I don't know how true this story is. This is the official story they're putting out there. What's the real story? I don't know. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all on Monday. President's Day is on Monday. So yeah, we'll do a show then. I know I told you all that I was going to do a music stream last Friday, but things were out of hand a little bit. My schedule got out of hand and there was no way I could do it. But tomorrow, I think I'm going to try and do a stream. So look out for a stream tomorrow. Again, I'm threatening to play some music on a live stream, YouTube or Instagram tomorrow at kevinsandbloom. So if you want to go to at kevinsandbloom, just keep an eye out. And if I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you on Monday. All right. Until next time, beware the bear.